This story happened to me on my 21st birthday. I was so excited to be turning 21 because I would be able to get into certain nightclubs and of course drink alcohol legally. The day started out really good, and after having dinner with my family, my best friend and I had planned to go to a club. We got to the club at about 10 o'clock and we had a great time. At about 2 in the morning, the night started to wind down and we decided to leave before everyone else began exiting the establishment. I should mention that the club is about 4 blocks away from where I lived. It was very convenient to walk home after a night of drinking. My friend Amanda and I began walking back to my house. We noticed a black panel van following us. The van had no windows in the back and sides. Only the front driver and passenger sides had windows. We could see 2 men in the van, and when we looked over at them, they were driving slowly and looking at us. The driver rolled down his window and said, "Hey, how much do you girls charge?" We ignored them and continued walking. Finally, Amanda responded to them, "Why don't you leave us the hell alone?" she yelled. When we were halfway to my house, I looked back and noticed that there weren't any of the other clubgoers walking in our direction. Amanda and I were completely alone with these 2 weirdos. I became very nervous because I wasn't sure if they were going to follow us all the way to my house. I should mention that I lived in Philadelphia at the time and my neighborhood had many row houses and dark alleys. We were standing right next to a dark alley when the passenger jumped out of the van and began pulling on my arm. I was screaming and Amanda was punching and kicking him. He pulled me to the van and opened the back door. By this time, my shoes had fallen off and my purse had fallen onto the pavement as well. Nobody was coming to help. It was like nobody could hear us. I knew that I had only one chance to fight, and if I didn't fight, I would be taken by these 2 sick and twisted guys. Who knew what plans they had for us? I started elbowing him as he was forcing me into the van. I could hear his friend yelling at him to hurry up. Amanda started biting his arm, and that's when he let me go. I ran back to the curb with one shoe on, which made it very difficult to keep my balance. Amanda reached into her purse out her pepper spray and started spraying him in the face. We ran through the alley and called my mom to pick us up. Her and my father were there to pick us up a couple of minutes later. My parents took us to the police station, and we reported the incident. We gave them a description of the van, but we couldn't really give a good description of the guys because they had on dark clothes, and it was super dark outside. Also, everything happened so fast. After this incident, it took a long time for Amanda and I to even want to go out again. We decided we would only go out in large groups and always let someone know our exact location. We shared locations with each other and our families just to ensure we were always safe. Thank you for listening. Stay spooked.
This story happened to me when I was a kid. I was playing at the park with some of the other kids, and my mom was sitting on the bench with some of the other moms. We noticed that there was a lady who was walking her dog by the slides. At the time I didn't think it was strange, but now when I look back, I think it was very strange that she was walking her dog in that part of the park. Next to where the kids played, there was a small area of the park that was specifically for dogs. I had never seen anyone walk their dog in the kids' area before. She walked over to me and one of the other kids and asked us if we wanted to pet her dog, and of course we said yes. We began petting the dog and she told us that he really liked us. She said that we seemed really caring and asked if we had pets of our own. We both told her that we didn't have any pets but really wanted them. Then she told us that she had 2 more dogs exactly like hers back in her car. She told us to follow her and that she would let us keep them if we liked them, and if they liked us. I told her that I had to ask my mom first before I could go. She said it was okay, and she was a friend of my mom, and she was okay with it. The other little boy said he couldn't go to see her dog, and he ran back to where our moms were sitting. We started walking back towards her car, and she was waving to a man in an SUV. She told me that he was her friend, and the dogs were in the car with him. That's when she started pulling me and telling me to move quicker. I could hear my mom yelling my name, and when I looked back, my mom was frantically running towards us. The other boy and his mom were running behind her too, and all three of them caught up to us. The lady ran into her car with her dog and they sped away. We called the police, and they showed up very soon after they were called. They searched for the couple that tried to take me, and they had no luck. A few weeks later, they returned to the park and tried to do the same thing to another kid, and they were caught. What they didn't know is that the kid that they tried to kidnap that time was a decoy working with the police. We found out that the man was a registered offender and that he wasn't allowed to be at the park anyway. After that day, my parents ended up building me a play set in our backyard, and all the kids in the neighborhood would come over any time they wanted to play.
This story happened to me when I was in college. To earn extra money, I decided to get into modeling. There was a bulletin board on campus outside of the career center. This was the bulletin board where companies could post job ads for temporary or seasonal workers. There was one job posting that really stood out to me, and it was a posting for a modeling gig. I called the number on the ad, and a lady answered. She seemed very friendly, and she helped me an audition with the director, who was a man we will call Jack. My audition with Jack was scheduled for the next day. I took a rideshare service to the appointment. My driver pulled up to a beautiful glass building, and I walked through the first set of doors. Before I could go through the second set of glass doors, where there was a receptionist sitting, I was greeted by a tall, beautiful woman who also looked like a model. She introduced herself as the woman I had spoken to the day before. We shook hands, and she told me that she would walk me over to Jack's office, which was a block away. I was nervous, and I wondered why she had given me the address of this building if Jack's office was somewhere else. Before I could ask, she started explaining, Jack's office is difficult to find using GPS, so we meet people here and then walk them over to the office. After she explained this to me, I felt comfortable, and she looked perfectly normal, so I trusted her. We walked for about 3 minutes all the way to the other end of the long street. At the end of the street was a dead end. There was a brick building. The building was the opposite of the beautiful glass building we were standing in before. We walked into the building, which appeared to be a warehouse. There were about 20 other young women there as well, and I recognized one of them from my campus. I sat down on one of the chairs. I texted my mom to let her know that I was at a casting, and she was excited and wished me luck. After about 10 minutes, a tall, slender man appeared from behind a door at the other end of this massive open warehouse. He was dressed very nicely and wore a fitted suit. He had a bald head and a lot of tattoos that covered his head, neck, and hands. He introduced himself as Jack, and he told us that we were there to audition to walk in an upcoming fashion show for a major brand. He claimed to work with many famous models and named a few. One by one, each of us were asked to walk down an imaginary runway. He told us that we were all hired, and the gig was starting that same day at another location where there would be hair and makeup. I began texting my mom to let her know. That's when Jack walked over to me and told me to turn my phone off. He told all of us to turn off our phones and that no one could know where we were going, because there would be a lot of high-profile people there who didn't want their location to be shared with the public. I asked if I could use the bathroom, and he pointed me to the direction of the bathroom. When I went into the bathroom, I quickly turned my phone on and called my mom. I explained everything to her and she told me that she thought the entire situation was a bit strange. She told me she was going to pick me up and I should leave immediately. I told her I was staying because I didn't want to miss a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's when my father got on the phone and told me that I didn't have a choice. I went back to the room and explained to Jack that I was no longer interested in the gig as I had just thrown up in the bathroom. He didn't respond, he just gave me a mean look and I walked out of the building. I began making my way in the direction of the building where my ride had dropped me off earlier. As I looked behind me, I noticed all the girls from the casting call were getting into a large van. As the van drove by me, I felt like my dreams were driving away too. My parents finally came to pick me up and they brought me back to my campus. A couple of days later, I noticed that there were several police officers inside of the career center. I also noticed that day that there was missing girls flyers and some of the girls on the posters were girls I recognized from the casting call. Later that day, there was email sent out by the campus police asking if anyone has information about the disappearance of the missing girls. I called my parents, and they urged me to speak with the campus police. They offered to go with me, and we all went to speak with the police. I told them everything I knew, and they called in local authorities to interview me as well. That day, I was interviewed by more than 5 police officers separately. I was mentally and emotionally drained at that point. When the detectives went to the warehouse, it was completely empty. The owner of the building told the police that the building had been vacant for more than 6 months and was in the process of being sold. The police determined that Jack and his team had been using the warehouse without permission from the owner, and it appeared that they had only been there for a few days. They even questioned the receptionist at the glass building and she claimed that she didn't know who Jack was, but she knew a woman we will call Nicole who had secretly paid her a lot of money if she allowed her to use the lobby to meet clients before walking them to another location. She said she had only met Nicole a few days before the incident took place and had only seen her again that same day each time that she came to meet a client. If you're wondering, the clients were the models who attended the audition. The police were able to find surveillance footage of Nicole and all of the girls, but didn't seem to be able to find any additional footage beyond that. None of the girls were found again to my knowledge, and I can only guess that there was some trafficking involved. I am so blessed to have the parents that I have, because if it wasn't for them, I can't begin to imagine what would have happened to me. I ignored all the warning signs, and that could have cost me my life. If something is too good to be true, it probably is. I trusted Nicole because she was attractive and friendly, but I also learned that looks are deceiving. Everyone stay safe and stay spooked.